We're live in Banjul, broadcasting for viewers in the Gambia and around the world. This is GRTS News at 2200 hours, and in our top stories this evening. Promoting human rights, the National Human Rights Commission convenes a three-day seminar to monitor the implementation of government white paper on the TRRC. Plus, the Gambia Police Force parades dozens of livestock for public identification in advancing probes into a major cattle rustling operations affecting cattle farmers in the country. In sports, Sanchaba United crowned champions of the Sanyang Junior Football Marathon after beating Sateba United in the finals on Saturday. Away from home, Egypt and Sudan set to start work on the long-awaited railway. This after the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi approved $2.4 million for the feasibility study. And authorities in Uganda threatens to shut down schools that do not follow safety guidelines after a fire broke out in one of the schools for the blind, killing at least 11 people. Well, the details of these stories and many coming ahead in the news. I am Ba Ibrahim Cham. Many thanks for joining us. Now the news in details. The National Human Rights Commission, with support from the Open Society Foundation, has convened a three-day international seminar to monitor the implementation of the government white paper on the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission. The Commission says this is in line with their mandate to promote human rights. Louis Mendy has the details.
Since the government the white paper on the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, TRRC. The white paper says the government has agreed to most of the TRRC recommendations, including prosecution for major perpetrators of human rights abuses during the 22 years of the former Yahya Jammeh's rule.
As you all know, the government white paper not only examines and analyzes the recommendations of the TRRC, but the government went on to agree to implement most of the recommendations. The government also on that day promised to come up with an implementation plan. But just quickly by way of highlighting some of those pertinent points on the government white paper, you'll remember the government agreed that there will be prosecution of those that have been adversely mentioned. Those individuals, including the ex-president Dame, for gross human rights violation and crimes committed from 1994 to 2017 January. The government also, in the white paper, did say that they will establish a special prosecution unit at the Ministry of Justice to investigate and prosecute cases from the TRRC.
The Human Rights Commission says it is determined to monitor the implementation process of the white paper to ensure victims get the deserved justice and reparations, hence this three-day international seminar supported by the Open Society Foundation.
While the government takes steps to implement the white paper, the National Human Rights Commission is therefore positioning itself to monitor implementation of the TRRC recommendations in order to ensure that never again in the history of the Gambia will such human rights violations and abuses occur.
Emmanuel Diouf, the chair at the National Human Rights Commission, said the seminar is relevant in many ways.
So to this end, the National Human Rights Commission will establish a monitoring framework to systematically keep track of implementation, progress, and lessons learned. It will also produce advisory notes, scorecards, and quarterly reports to document the process. It is therefore against this background that the National Human Rights Commission is organizing this international conference with the support of the Open Society Foundation to bring together national and international experts and partners involved in the work of truth commissions and transitional justices.
The United Nations country rep, Sarafina Wakana, says he is pleased to be part of this seminar to promote human rights.
It is important that the TRRC recommendations are implemented to ensure redress is provided to victims for violations suffered, and to ensure adherence to rule of law and respect for human rights. I here congratulate the National Human Rights Commission for its continued positive trajectory toward ensuring full implementation of its mandate in the Gambia.
Despite the effort from the government, Gray Johnson from the Open Society Foundation say they can't continue to rely on promises, they want actions.
And let me further say to the representative of the minister that yes, we have made progress in this journey towards justice. The Honorable Representative, the Minister, I'd like to also state that your predecessor laid the foundation. He laid the foundation and gave us direction towards a noble aspiration in truth-seeking, ventilation, narration, and amplification of voices of victims, admission of complicity and guilt, as well as collective and individual contrition. You have now come in, sir, and been the recipient of a historical document which encapsulates the evidence of an era whose country's dark chapter was recorded and poised for corrective action.
The seminar was also attended by National Assembly members, civil society groups, and other non-state actors in the promotion of human rights. Louis Mendy, GRTS. It is barely 5.
Moving on, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare on Wednesday briefed the media on the outcome of the recently concluded 6th Periodic State Report on the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, at a high-level meeting held in Geneva, Switzerland, on the invitation of the United Nations Committee on CEDAW. The press conference was meant to share with the media the situation of the Gambia on the level of implementation of the CEDAW Convention. Here's an excerpt.
It was also updated on the development of a comprehensive gender management information system, GMIS, database that will register information on key gender-based violence indicators that would be linked to our GBV shelter. On the transitional justice reform process, the CEDAW committee was updated on the establishment of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Committee, TRRC, established to investigate human rights violations and abuses committed during the past 22 years of authoritarian rule in the Gambia. On persons with disabilities, the delegation highlighted to the committee that the Gambia has enacted the Persons with Disability Act 2020 to fulfill government's commitment in ensuring that women and girls with disabilities have effective access to inclusive education, health, just employment, and participation in political and public life, among others. The Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare, in collaboration with the Gambia Federation of the Disabled, established a Disability Advisory Council and has conducted numerous sensitization programs on the Disability Act 2020. On sexual and reproductive health and rights, the launching of the National Obstetric Fistula Task Force Committee was highlighted. Obstetric fistula, by the way, is one of the indicators of a gender-based health impediment that most women and girls in sub-Saharan Africa face. My ministry, in collaboration with the Ministry of Health, ECOWAS, UNFPA, and the Islamic Development Bank, are partnering in this. With regards to gender mainstreaming, the committee was updated on the key sector policies and programs being reviewed to mainstream gender and ensure gender-responsive programming and budgeting across all sectors. I use the opportunity to extend my deep sympathy to the parents and families of the 70 children whom we lost to acute kidney injury over the past weeks in the Gambia, and highlighted that the government of the Gambia at cabinet level has established a broad-based commission of inquiry, and as part of efforts to also respond to this emergency crisis, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare had convened an emergency National Child Protection Steering Committee meeting with its relevant child protection partners in government, CSOs, and the NGOs. I further reiterated the government of the Gambia's recognition of gender and women empowerment as a critical enabler in the attainment of sustained and progressive development. the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare has been mandated to ensure equity, inclusiveness, and equality, protecting the rights of women and children, and the integration and protection of vulnerable groups, including people living with disability, through appropriate policies, strategies, and development interventions. I concluded by reiterating the importance that the government of the Gambia attaches to the 83rd session of the UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, and the exceptional work of the committee. It is our vision that the outcome of this year's report will engender constructive dialogues that will accelerate global and continental efforts in achieving gender equity, equality, and empowerment of women.
Now, excessive annoying cases of animal theft. About a week ago, information regarding some scrupulous individuals engaged in stealing and selling of cattle was received at the Criminal Investigations Department of the Anti-Crime Unit. Now, on Tuesday, police paraded the livestock for owner identification, advancing probes into a major rustling operations affecting cattle farmers around the country. Dada Cham has the details of the story.
The Police Anti-Crime Unit is advancing surveillance and intelligence gathering efforts to detect cattle rustlers operating in the country. Latest prompts leads to the arrest of 2 suspects, both local Afro sellers who slaughtered stolen rams from a cattle farmer, while another 2 slaughtered rams were equally recovered by the Anti-Crime Unit for investigations.
So they were able to make recoveries of a Mitsubishi vehicle, a green one, which has the registration number 93112N, and 6 rams, 2 ewes, that is female sheep, if you like, 4 billy goats, that is the she goat, 1 nanny goat, a he goat, and another. So they were able to make all these recoveries, and investigation led to the arrest of 2 receivers who are with the police to help us with investigation.
According to preliminary investigations of the case, the Anti-Crime Unit, one of the suspects confessed to buying the 2 slaughtered rams from the second suspect for $4,000 each. The second suspect also acknowledged the claim and told police he equally bought the rams from another seller in Brusubi. Police have urged livestock owners to come forward and claim ownership.
So we just urge the general public to take a look at the footage of the recoveries and make sure they're able to lodge their complaints if they're able to recognize any. So investigation still continues, and we're also able to make recoveries of 3 slaughtered rams that are refrigerated currently. And we also urge the general public to be vigilant and also help the police with information so that we act on it and ensure that the Gambia is crime-free.
Meanwhile, investigations to establish ownership of the recovered cattle is ongoing, with police registering no complainants as of now. Reporting for JRTS News, I am Dada Cham.
Away from that, the Regional Agriculture Directorate, West Coast Region, in collaboration with the Gambia Inclusive and Resilient Agriculture Value Chain Development Project, on Tuesday conducted a farm field day at Bujinga, Fonyi Kansala District. Yusuf Bojang was there.
The Farmers Field Day seeks to showcase the best agricultural practices in rice production and to serve as a conduit for technology and innovation transfer and adoption, sharing of experiences and networking. On behalf of the Minister of Agriculture, the Director General Department of Agriculture said the day seeks to showcase the efforts of farmers and partners' commitment to increasing field crops and vegetable crops production and productivity for the achievement of national food security, nutrition, inclusive growth, and shared prosperity for all.
Through the support from the Giraffe project, they distributed about 200 tons of rice to farmers across the country. This has actually increased the production area when it comes to production of maize and the rice. From policy direction, the National Development Plan, there are 4 key priorities of crops that the government is putting into consideration. The project has come up with this kind of support to help our farmers to increase on rice production and productivity.
He encourages farmers and small-scale producers to organize themselves into viable cooperatives and take up farming as a business to help create employment opportunities. The director of operations, Giraffe Project, Ramatulai Hydra, gave an overview of the Giraffe project, noting that it is a $40 million 5-year World Bank grant aimed at promoting the development of inclusive resilience and competitive agriculture value chain, focusing on smallholder farmers and agribusiness in project targeted areas.
Giraffe Project is here to assist farmers, uplift farmers' status from where we are, from subsistence farming to more commercialized farming. And that can only be done if we take agriculture smart. The project has provided 50 metric tons of high-yielding maize varieties and 200 metric tons of assorted rice varieties. And it has been distributed all over the country, countrywide, all the 7 agricultural regions of the country. And in all the regions, all the varieties did very, very well.
The Regional Agriculture Director for West Coast Region, Mustafa Drame, underscored the importance the Department of Agriculture attaches to food security and sustainable livelihood. He noted that the attainment of food self-sufficiency calls for concerted efforts of all stakeholders and lauded farmers for their support in this noble crusade. Deputizing the Governor of West Coast Region, the Regional Livestock Director, Aisetu Savage, underscored their resolve to providing the necessary support needed to ensure a successful completion of its activities within the region.
We would like to encourage other farmers to emulate Mohamed Gai for improved and enhanced production and productivity. At the level of the region, the Governor and the TAG are ready and willing to work with the project and will provide all necessary support needed within the means to ensure successful implementation of its activities within the region.
Mohamed Gai, the farmer who hosted the field day, commended the Department of Agriculture and the Giraffe Project for their commitment to food security and economic growth. He calls on farmers to obtain regular advice from extension workers to boost production and productivity, as well as reduce post-harvest loss. Several other speakers reiterated their call on farmers to be proactive and support the noble initiative to food availability and promote poverty reduction. Yusfa Bojang, GRTS News.
Chosan Charitable Foundation over the weekend embarked on a free medical treatment exercise in the Albreda village in Upper Newmy district of the North Bank region. This is part of the foundation's effort in ensuring access to healthcare services in remote villages. The details in this report by Omar P. Jallo.
This is one amongst the many under the banner of Chosan team, seeking to provide free consultations, laboratory testing, health education and drugs to hard-to-reach communities, complementing government's effort in achieving decentralized, quality and accessible healthcare services across the Gambia, thus advancing the cause of improved health status of the populace, especially women and children. Landing Bolonjata, the representative of the Alcalo, said the village has nothing to say but to thank the management of Chosan Foundation for the laudable initiative. Haruna Jallo, the president of the foundation, spoke on the importance of the caravan in Albreda, which he said is to give them and other villages free healthcare services. Jallo commended his staff for their commitment, hard work and sacrifice towards the successful implementation of the treatment exercise.
The government is trying very well to make sure there is almost in every maybe 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers you have at least a health facility. But we know the human capacity is limited. Yeah. So in doing so, if you go to certain communities, you see probably in their lifetime, they hardly see a medical doctor. So moving out these medical doctors, qualified laboratory technician, pharmacists from our comfort zone or the greater Banjul area to go to these hard-to-reach areas and then, give them healthcare service at their doorstep is something that we really think is needed by any healthcare worker.
Dr. Mamadi Cham, the CEO of Bundu Maternal and Child Health Hospital, who is a native of the community, said the Ministry of Health is glad to support Chosan Foundation to deliver its free medical treatment.
I think we have witnessed where they identified people with conditions that need urgent referral, and here the ambulance have taken So I just said it is consistent with the game. And you see, it's a multidisciplinary team. You have the laboratory people, you have the doctors, you have the pharmacists, you have the nurses, you have the laboratory people. Everybody is here. So it's a one-stop center where some of them here, the patients they are seeing, might even never have the opportunity to be seen by a doctor. But today, there is a doctor here to see them, and that is commendable.
Jim Job, the Secretary General of the Foundation, said the driving force for the initiative is commitment to serving humanity, and they will continue to give free medical treatment to those who are very far from hospitals.
Sometimes a camp we go, we will see 1,500, 1,000, sometimes if we go up to 2,000. So we are talking about tens of thousands here. Today we are targeting 1,500 so far. That's the target for today.
Safi Abia, the accountant of the foundation, commended the mayor of KMC, Ja Oil Company, and Victory Pharmacy for their contribution in ensuring the success of the initiative, saying the foundation is committed to working with more philanthropists in the future.
From our team also, we have lab personnel and pharmacies and the like. They also contributed by some bringing in drugs, some bringing in lab consumables, some buying drinks, some buying water.
Ibrahim Afati, the public relations officer of the foundation, and Bakari Sise, an eye specialist, also expressed appreciation to all those that supported towards the success of the exercise. Over 200 patients with different ailments were seen by the caravan, some with conditions that required urgent medical attention. Beneficiaries expressed appreciation for what they call a humanitarian gesture by the Chosan Medical Charitable Foundation. The foundation had been doing the free treatment for the past 9 years. Reporting for GRTS News, I am Omar Pijalo.
Elsewhere in the Upper River region, a business tycoon has donated food items to the students of Basse Annex College to support the feeding challenges students face in the campus. School authorities could not hold back their gratitude. Our regional correspondent, Seydou Kamara, was at the presentation ceremony, and he sent us this report from Basse.
At the Basse College Annex, received a support package of food items from a Gambian philanthropist barely 2 months after reports of students at the Basse College collapsing due to starving trending on social media. During the presentation of the food package, which includes rice, cooking oil, onions, sugar, and other cooking ingredients, the college coordinator, Matal Sise, thanked the donor for supporting students with vital food rations. The coordinator of the school revealed that the philanthropist behind the gesture is a constant supporter of the school in different ways, adding that the donation will go a long way in addressing feeding challenges faced in the campus.
I am sure the student union and its leadership will do what it takes to make sure this donation that is given to them, it is used in a way in which it is not abused. In order for you to be a good academician, it means there have to be a stable mind. And what brings about a stable mind is the stable stomach. And once the stomach is stable, it means at the end of the day, you can focus and make sure you make strides towards improving your academic standings.
Omar Sampo Sise, who is among the facilitators of the food donation, told students to be determined and focused in their education. Mr. Sise said the donor is a household name in the country and is a man of great compassion and commitment to help the needy, particularly students.
Government cannot do all. This is where the Ja Oil and his team came to complement government's efforts. And I am confident that a lot of issues are on the way coming. Because we will not sit as government representative to see our younger sisters or younger brothers facing difficulties in our own making. We will never sit, so we will not relent. We will do our best, and we hope and we wish we will come up with the best results. Basse Annex.
The president of the Student Council at the Basse College, Usman Ba, expressed gratitude to the donor for the timely intervention, noting that the gesture will ease student feeding problem at the college.
This means a lot to the student. It means that students will not have issue of feeding for this short period of time. because looking at it actually is not sustainable. It will not take us for the rest of the academic year, but it will take us a long way that we can actually utilize this, and then the issue of feeding and other things will be kind of minimized. We also actually bought some garden tools, and we're working on a garden, and that gardening, our agri-minister is working on it, and that is to help us to sustain what we have, because we believe we cannot bank on everything on the market. But if we can have our own little garden at the corner, we can actually have some of the vegetables that we don't have to go to the market and buy it.
Other students, including Bintan Jai and Abubakar Sise, respectively, expressed delight and appreciation to the donor, saying the gesture will improve students' participation and academic performance in school. Students have also created a garden in the campus to ensure vegetables to enrich their meals and a sustainable diet.
Whosoever want to help the Gambia College student, this is a responsibility that every concerned Gambian should look into. We are Gambians and we are learning, and then at some point we need support. And we'll try by all means. Students go no hungry, and then students actually have their feeding properly before they get to class.
However, access to water is still a challenge, with a single solar borehole serving the entire facility, and students are still trekking miles to fetch water for their daily usage. School authorities have appealed for help to access water in the campus from the National Water and Electricity Company, NAWEC. Seydou Kamara, reporting for GRTS News from Basse Upper River region.
Well, time now to take our first break. Sports news is up next. Do stay with us. Welcome back. The Sanyang Junior Football Naritan Championship ended in delight for Sanchaba United, who recorded a 1-0 win over Sateba United in the final to clinch the league title. Farmer Baji witnessed what was a thrilling encounter and filed in this report.
This was a junior final, but from the look of things, it will be difficult for anyone to differentiate it from a senior final. The turnout shows how much the people of Sanyang Village love football. Both Sanchaba and Sateba United were backed by vocal supporters who made the final even more colorful. Generally, it has been a good final as both sides showed glimpses of their potential, but it was Sanchaba United who exerted all the early pressure, but were not able to find the breakthrough goal. On the opposing end, Sateba United were trying to hit their opponents on counter-attacks, but Sanchaba were well calm at the back as the two sides headed into the break with a blank score sheet. From the intervals, Sanchaba continued to pressurize the defense of Sateba and ultimately got them where they wanted, with 10 minutes to go, when Modlamin Dabo put them in front to draw a wild celebration. From that moment, Sateba continued to desperately fight for a leveler, but Sanchaba kept them at bay to seal a vital 1-0 win in the final.
For me, this is my first time of being in the line as the coach. The Cabildo chose me as head coach of the junior team. The senior team performed the board league and the knockout league. They are the winners. So when the juniors come for the first time, I be the coach. So I am very much happy with it. This is football. I accept it. This is the rules and regulation. And I'm thanking the committee, the job they are doing. They are working hard day and night. I'm telling them thank you very much, because without this junior team, the football will not go forward. So I am very happy about this final. Although I lose it, I don't want it, that's not my aim. But unfortunately, I have to accept it. This is football.
Highly attended and a well-coordinated final. This competition is one step towards promoting grassroots football.
As a committee, our priority is the grassroots football. We prioritize the grassroots football over the seniors tournament. That's why we took it upon ourselves. The competition is without a sponsor, but the committee sponsored everything on its own to develop the grassroots football for Sanyang here, because we have so many raw talents and we want to capitalize on those raw talents to produce some very fine players here.
Several individuals were recognized for supporting the development of sports in Sanyang, while some players were handed awards like the most outstanding goalkeeper. the top goal scorer, and the most outstanding player of the tournament, among others. A remarkable campaign ended remarkably for Sanchaba United as they claimed the title unbeaten. Farmer Abaji, GRTS News.
Well, congratulations to Sanchaba United there. But meanwhile, you're watching GRTS News, and we're going to go for another short break and take a look at news from outside the Gambia. Do stay. Welcome back. Egypt and Sudan are set to start work on the long-awaited railway line between the two neighboring countries. This comes after Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi approved $2.4 million to pay for the feasibility study. Details in this report.
Ambitious railway project linking Egypt's Aswan city to Sudan's Wadi Halfa is finally back on track after over a decade's delay.
Talks started in 2010, but the two uprisings here suspended talks till 2015. President Sisi relaunched the talks in Sudan, but an uprising there and the pandemic in 2020 delayed it again.
The railway network will be a more convenient form of transport for passengers than the more expensive airlines or longer bus and ferry rides. But it will also promote economic ties between the North African neighbors.
The freight trains link will strengthen bilateral trade as Egypt needs agricultural and livestock products from Sudan, as well as exporting various commodities and goods to Sudan.
Egypt has built the first phase that reaches the borders with Sudan, but the 570 kilometers linking both countries is expected to include investments from the Kuwait Fund that is financing the feasibility studies.
Once the Egypt and Sudan governments start construction, the project will take 3 years to implement from Aswan to Wadi Alpha, where there will be another station to Khartoum, while Aswan line will reach Alexandria station.
No date has been announced for the inauguration of the project yet. The ambitious railway...
Families in Uganda are mourning their loved ones after a fire broke out at a school for the blind, killing at least 11 people. Following the incident, local authorities have threatened to close down schools that do not follow fire guidelines. Now CGTN has more.
A somber mood engulfs Salama School for the Blind in Mukono, central Uganda. Fire gutted this girls' dormitory in the early hours of Tuesday morning.
The school head teacher called to inform me about the incident. I came rushing, hoping to find her, but in vain.
Efforts by the school matron to save the victims of the fire were futile.
One of the girls shouted, "Aunt!" I woke up and saw one of the girls engulfed in fire under a mosquito net. I started taking out some, but I couldn't manage, so I called for help.
6 students have been taken to hospital in a critical condition. This burnt-out building has been accommodating 27 learners, and 16 of them survived the inferno. Forensic experts are now investigating the cause of the fire. Preliminary reports indicate some of the safety measures are lacking.
The first observation that we looked at the dormitory, the Ministry of Education and Sports had given guidelines that dormitories should not have bungalow proofs, but this one has for easy access, easy escape for the pupils, for the students in case there's fire outbreak. Secondly, the room was a bit congested, and yet there's a guideline on the spacing of the rooms. So those are the investigations that will reveal later what happens.
In 2008, 19 students were killed by a fire at a boarding school in Kampala. The country's education ministry issued guidelines on how to avoid fire outbreaks. They include setting up emergency exits, firefighting equipment, and security committees, among others. But not all schools are following the guidelines, which results in more fire outbreaks. Local authorities are now warning of punitive measures.
We are not going to tolerate any more such incidences in the country. The best we can do, or the worst we can do, is to close the school, period. because we've been sensitizing people. We've been telling them about.
The incident happens as the school prepares to host the UK's Princess Anne. Local authorities have now tightened security around the school, and they are also urging other schools to implement the set guidelines to avoid fire outbreaks. Hilary Yisga, CGTA, Kampala, Uganda.
Over now to the weather forecast report, courtesy of the Central Forecast Office. Draws the curtains for this edition of GRTS News, but here's a quick recap of our top stories. Promoting human rights. The National Human Rights Commission has convened a 3-day seminar to monitor the implementation of government white paper on the TRRC. Plus, the Gambia Police Force have paraded dozens of livestock for public identification in advancing probes into a major cattle rustling operations affecting cattle farmers in the country. In sports, Sanchaba United have been crowned champions of the Sanyang Junior Football Marathon after beating Sateba United in the finals on Saturday. Away from home, Egypt and Sudan are set to start work on the long-awaited railway, this after the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi approved $2.4 million for the feasibility studies. And authorities in Uganda have threatened to shut down schools that do not follow safety guidelines after a fire broke out in one of the schools for the blind, killing at least 11 people. But that was all we had in this edition of GRTS News at 2200 hours. Please enjoy the rest of our programs, and bye for now.